Help support this channel and get early access to videos, plus exclusive content and patrons-only live discussions by becoming a member at patreon.com/Bruce Poinsette. This is the Bruce Poinsette Show, the world's most dangerous infomercial. Got a couple special guests in the studio today. We're talking about the Kids Outside Festival 2, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, actually. So, yes, on my left.
Donovan Scribes. I'm the project manager for the Kids Outside and co-founder to the whole movement.
And my name's LaQuisha Minnieweather, and I am with Tenacious Rose.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for being with me today this afternoon. And for those who don't know, Kids Outside Fest, it's at George Park in St. John's. It's also, shout out to Matt Randall, who couldn't be here, also one of the minds behind it, but features activities for family activities, performances, and I think the idea of like how it kind of came together is just sort of around like a revival of George Park, would you say? But yeah, can you just talk about that a little bit more? Like what was like I know we talked a little bit about this last year for the first one, but you could just talk about like the genesis of this event.
Yeah, the foundation of this is Matt. He grew up in that neighborhood. He grew up literally across the street from George Park, and he and I had done some work before, and he just gave me a call one day and was like, this park, it really needs some life in it. It doesn't have the proper equipment, and his son was really young at that time, and he still lived across the street from there, and he just wanted to see something different happen in the park, and he didn't know how to go about it, and so he gave me a call to see if I could help because of the work that I do in terms of organizing and policy work and everything. So we linked up at that time and tried to figure out a chart for it. I'd never worked on a park before, but we slowly but surely have been able to get some momentum behind not just people imagining what could happen there, but having conversations with the city and some governmental agencies about what we're hearing so far and trying to push it into becoming a reality. And so the festival is just one part of that organizing that we're doing in terms of like, yes, we're having people come out to have a good time and everything, but it's ultimately about continuing to push the vision forward and say that we are here and that we do want to see something happen at George Park.
Yeah. And can you just talk a little bit more about kind of like that vision for what you'd like to see with George Park going forward?
Yeah. So when we very first started moving forward on this, we put out a survey, and it was during COVID, so we weren't able to hit the ground in the same way, but we put out a George Park improvement survey, and we got like dozens of responses on there, and everybody who responded to the survey was from St. John's. And then when we were finally able to get past COVID and have the first festival, then we got even more responses. And so we were able to get more than 100 responses to our survey about what people wanted. And I think one of the best things that happened with that is like the majority of the people were non-white. And I think it just in terms of St. John's and representing like the perspective out there is, there's a lot of different ethnicities out there, but it just showed that we were engaging with people who were from there and also people who might have been pushed out, and so that was important for us to not just get people who are living there now, but ultimately what we'd like to see is a park that's not just put together, but something that represents the culture and the diversity of St. John's. And so that perspective is coming through with some of the work that we're doing and some of the things that people want, at least through the survey that we saw. The number one thing people want is lighting, and that's not even the most revolutionary thing. It's just like it would make it a lot more safe out there if there was some lighting, because basically the pheasant inside of the park, and I guess I should mention, like, this park is surrounded by 4 different schools. It's got Roosevelt High School on one side, George down the street on the other one, James John on the other side, and then Sitten Elementary right around it. So it's like right in the heart of St. John's, right in the middle of these school zones, and still is not a place for kids necessarily to like go play, you know. And so yeah, in terms of the lighting and everything, it just gets pitch black once sun goes down on one side of the park. And so that came through in the survey. And then also what came through, people really, really want a basketball court there. But I think in terms of what's of the park, I think everybody kind of knows. In general, like if everybody been to a park, you know, there's lots of fun things that you can have that go in a park. So those things are, it's good to hear from community, like what are some of the things that could go in the place. But what we really like to move into, like with this next phase of work, is like, how do we start actualizing these things? How do we start moving into the real nuts and bolts of, like, we've heard some things from people. How do we kind of like get this synthesized into some, like, we're really going after these core things, and then really build it out around the St. John's identity. And so that's going to take the city, the Parks Bureau, and, you know, some of these other agencies to really be partners with us and moving this vision forward, and be active with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And, kind of like speaking of partners, you know, LaQuisha, and correct me on the number on this, but I think, Donovan, you're telling me you sourced 100+ backpacks with school supplies, feminine hygiene products. Like, so this is also an opportunity just for, again, just to get resources to the community. But can you just talk a little bit more about, like, the importance of using events like this for, you know, being able to, again, just like take care of the community with stuff like that?
Yeah, I always say that I think it's really important to take care of the community that you're in, and to make sure that the community feels supported and that our children are going to school prepared. When we think back to school, a lot of the times we're giving out pencils and binders and backpacks, and that's a big part of it too, but a lot of the times we're not thinking about the kiddos who maybe didn't get new clothes and their parents now need to wash laundry. And it's important that when we're thinking about back to school, we're also thinking about all of the barriers that could be there to, like, not feel successful and prepared for your first day. And it's important that those kind of resources are coming from people in the community.
Yeah, actually, to that point, you just talk a little bit more. You're from St. John's, right?
I am, yeah. I grew up in St. John's.
Do you have memories of George Park as a kid?
Yeah, I went to George Middle School, and I lived right by Roosevelt. So I would walk from George, past the park, and then get home. And a lot of the times we would stop. There's like a little store right across the street from the park. We'd stop there, get some snacks, hang out in the field, and, you know, talk and, you know, hang out what kids do at parks.
Yeah. So to that end, can you just talk a little bit more about, like, why it's important, just being from St. John's, being from the area, to be leading work like this? Yeah.
I think a lot of the kiddos, well, I mean, I can't even say I think, because I am a kiddo from North Portland. You sometimes feel like there's nothing you can do to change where you're at. There's nothing that you can do to improve where you're at. And I think it's important for the kiddos that are seeing TKO and the changes that we're going to make as a community to see that someone, me and Matt from St. John's, that are doing that. I think it'll inspire them to be able to be like, oh, yeah, I can do something different. My voice does matter, you know.
Yeah, and Donovan, you kind of mentioned some of the different, like, partners, organizations involved. But can you just talk a little bit more about, because, like, to do this is a big undertaking. It's a big, you know, quote unquote team effort and all that. But yeah, can you just talk about, like, who are some of the different players involved just to make this all happen?
The core partner is Summer Free for All, which is a program of the Portland Parks Bureau. So we partnered with them last year, and we're able to get that partnership again. And so the Summer Free for All program, you know, they take care of all the, like, foundational pieces of putting on an event. Like, they put it to us like this. I think the first go around, like, an event will happen whether you're there or not, like, because they've got the tech, they've got the, you know, all the microphones, they've got support staff to make sure, the nuts and bolts are taken care of. They've got the porta potties and all of that stuff. And, as the community partner, you're putting $1,000 forward towards, all this infrastructure that would cost a lot of money. So that's the core partner. In terms of some of the other parts that really are making this year's event go, Care Oregon stepped up as a core contributor this year, and so they're giving some major support for this year's event. And actually, it's funny because Matt's day job is at Care Oregon, and just by chance, one of his coworkers had been to last year's event, saw some of the promos, the early promo that was going out, and had dropped the event page or something in the chat during a work meeting. And then we were like, "Oh, Matt, that's you." And because of that, we were able to have some conversations with some of the leadership at Care Oregon and able to get that sponsorship. So that was a big thing for us. And Wonderfolk, I got to give a shout out to Wonderfolk too, because we've been looking for our fiscal sponsor just for TKO altogether this year, and so they were able to come through, give us that fiscal sponsorship support that was really key to moving the work forward, not just for this year's event, but just for the general infrastructure as we move into more fundraising for this work. So they started, a lot of people might know them as why am I forgetting their name right now? They had a name change. The first thing that went in my mind was literally saying New Beginning Global Up, but that's I think it was Global Works. Global Works was the name of their organization before, and they had a name change. But before, they were kind of taking kids out on trips outside of the country for the first time for most of the kids, and that was the core functions. But now they're doing some more on the ground work with kids and having them figure out issues that are happening in their community, and the adults kind of coalesce around those issues to make change. So it feels like a real natural fit for the work that we're doing. So I would say those are the core partnerships outside of some of the people that will be actually there performing or doing things at the event.
Yeah, to that point, let's talk a little bit about this year's performances. Matt's going to be on stage for sure, but who else is going to be there this year?
This year we have a performer by the name of Selah. Selah is going to be performing. He's part of MBG with Matt, but he comes to us by way of Texas, I believe Houston, and currently is stationed in Seattle, so he'll be making that trip down, especially for this event. And then we're also going to have Yawa, who a lot of people know as Aminta Abioto. So it's been a long time since I've seen Aminta perform, but she's always does something dope with her performances. And, she's using that loop pedal and kind of freestyles the performances and everything. So I think that's going to be something that the crowd can really get into, because it's a lot of free form, and I think it just can get people hype. And then, of course, like you said, Matt will be performing. But those are just the on-stage elements. We also are going to have Nikki Brown Clown come in again and doing what she does, which is, keeping energy super duper high for the kids out there. She was actually, we were doing another interview yesterday for Black Friday, and she was talking about how at TKO last year she ended up getting down to her there was a kid who really wanted a balloon, and she had one more balloon that she was able to make for that kid at the very end. But yeah, I'm super happy that Nikki is going to be joining us again. I hope that Nikki can just be a part of the kids outside every time, because she brings an element that nobody else can bring. And Nikki Sandoval, not Nikki Brown Cloud, but Nikki actually, she grew up in that neighborhood too. So it makes a lot of sense for her to be a part of what we're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome you talk about that. Just going down literally to the last balloon, and hopefully that kid remembers that.
Right.
But to that point, do either of you have like memories of events kind of like this, whether it be in your community or just that kind of like stuck out to you?
As far as like in my childhood,
Yeah, like I guess.
I mean, I don't think any come to mind right off the bat. Not for me, at least. Do you?
Yeah, nothing comes to mind like off rip in terms of like a kids event quite like this. But you know, and doing that first one, I think that was the thing that made me feel really good. Is, you know, we're putting on this concert. It's, you know, we're billing as family friendly hip hop and everything, and it's the first. It was shortly after COVID, and even some people were still kind of touchy about like if COVID is, you know, fully passed and everything. So, you know, you do your legwork, and at that time, you know, we had just like Zoe and I just had our kid, so it was like the amount of promo that we were able to do, or I was able to support, was limited. But like LaQuisha and Matt were hitting the ground, trying to get the word out. But you know, it's just like once you show up, you get there a little bit early. Like, are people gonna show up?
Yeah.
And then to see that park get filled out with hundreds of people, literally, and see that so many of them were kids and families and people who were from there, that was like, oh, we did it right. We did this thing right. And it was just like a showing point that, like, yeah, if we, the thing that we put out, that the community wants something here, is true. Like, it was like a proven point that people will come to this park because, you know, Matt's talked about it a lot, that not much has really happened at George. It's not a event space. It's not a place where people are doing things. In terms of St. John's, you might go to Cathedral Park or something to do something. But like, as somebody who threw an event at Cathedral Park, outside of this, like, it's expensive, and it's not in the middle of the neighborhood. It's not like, it's a beautiful space, but ultimately, you know, this is not the neighborhood park that you just go down to. You got a lot of people. We were talking about the survey earlier. So many people who took the survey said this is like the Passover park. You know, like, people say, I live in the neighborhood, but I'm never going to George, or I never go there. I have to go to a park down the way. So I think in terms of what we were able to put out there, it really was special to see that people said, yeah, this is the family event that we've been waiting for, and this is the vision that we're hoping to be a part of. So I'm excited to do it again.
Yeah, you kind of touched on that you're both also not just speaking as event organizers, but as parents with this. And yeah, I mean, is there like a lot of offerings? Even you said like you don't have any experience with something like this growing up, but like when you're just like looking for things to do, like is there a lot going on out there, or is this kind of like really like filling that gap?
I do think that there are. I mean, I am a community organizer, and I do host a lot of other events that aren't related to TKO, and me and the other people that I organize with try to make sure that every event that we throw is for families, and that it's not like if it's a backpack giveaway or something, that we're making sure that families are feeling welcomed and they're feeling like they can hang out and play. It's not like a long line of just, this is what I'm doing and I'm going home type. I do think that, you know, we try to make sure that things are, you know, comfortable for families.
Yeah.
But as far as it being like TKO, no.
Yeah, and I think also just thinking about last year, like, so many people ended up hanging out. Like you were just talking about, people were hanging out. You know, the event, the summer free for all model, you only can have a couple hours, you know, of actual event time. But once the lights were off and everything, people were kicking it. You know, and last year was later. You know, it was 6 to 8, so it was more of a stretch for parents to be there. You know, because bedtime, whew, And definitely know as a parent how like bedtime is a real crucial time. You got to hit it on the hour. So people were stretching themselves to be out there, but they wanted to be. This time we're doing it 2 to 4 o'clock, you know, so on a Saturday. Same date though, August 26th, just by chance. But I think that was the energy that was around last year's event. I think it was a chance for people to connect and reconnect. And I think in terms of, like, if we're feeling a void, I think we're feeling a void for St. John's.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of that neighborhood and the ethos of what this work is about. Because, yeah, you can go to things like PDX Parent, and there's no shortage of, like, things that are happening for kids and for families.
Right.
But in the way that we're doing it from the ground up with the community and, you know, pushing for something larger in the way that we are, because, again, it's not just an event. You know, this is a part of a larger thing. I think, yeah, there is nothing like this right now.
Right, and it's specifically for a certain neighborhood.
Right.
There's not a lot like that.
Yeah. So, this is lastly, is there any other messages you would have for families who might be interested, or anyone who might be interested in TKO2?
Yeah, I think one of the things we haven't mentioned, we're going to have caricature artists there.
Yuri Fraser,
Yeah.
A friend of mine is going to come in.
Yeah, we're going to have that. I feel
So
like
the caricature artist, I feel like I'm just going to pretend I don't understand the word caricature. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, so he does portraits of people, like drawings of people.
It's
yeah.
like the big head on the
Yeah. So I think that's going to be real fun part of this. And actually, just this week, came up with something that's going to be super fun, I think, for everybody that's in the park. Not saying what it is, but you'll definitely want to stay till the end for that. And, you know, this year we made some invites to some electeds from the area who will represent North Portland. So Commissioner Jayapal from Multnomah County Commissioners is going to be there and say some words. But I think that's less the event side, and just like the hope is that we can, like I said, continue to see recognition from these people in the seats to see that there's a vision here and that we're not trying to wait till TKO 10 to like see something happen. We want to see something. We are already sitting on fertile ground. We don't want to wait until the city of Portland comes up with a master plan and goes through their engagement processes. The engagement process is happening right now, and recognizing that the person I just named is on the county side, but the more that you can bring people together in any of these seats to realize vision, I think the better. So we're excited about, you know, that. And I think this year, even more so than last year, we're seeing more community support for this vision. We are seeing more organizations coalesce around TKO and trying to see how they can get involved. So I think like I said, we had nearly 300 people come out for that first one. I have a feeling that we can go bigger this year. So it's going to be fun. There's going to be plenty to do. There's going to be a lot of organizations out there that you can get tapped in with, and ultimately, just come and be a part of something special.
Yeah, and I think it's important you talk about getting city and county leadership to come in some ways be involved, or at least just see that community effort, because like when you were just mentioning light poles earlier, as I was thinking like, oh yeah, that's right. We talked about this in studio like earlier this year, because there was a story about the city pulling 243 light poles across 12 city parks, and that it would take something, I want to say like 18 months or something to replace. I'm just like,
It's crazy.
yeah. everyone's hand wringing about safety. I wonder what that will do. Like, it's just,
It was crazy, especially because at least my understanding is that it was predicated by one person deciding to set up a hammock between some light poles and the light pole falling. And they're like, the infrastructure is terrible here. Well, maybe that's not what the light pole is built for. Like, that's not what light poles are supposed to have happen. So everybody's saying, yeah, let's pull all the light poles. Let's pull them all up. Because people are just putting hammocks on them left and right. And man, that was crazy. That was crazy to witness. And then they paused it. They paused it because I think there was a realization that, like, yeah, I don't know why that happened, how it happened, but meanwhile, George Park remains dark. Oh, bars! Did you catch that? George Park remains dark. Bars.
For those watching, Donovan, you had the short-lived radio show where things like this happen. So I'm not just rolling my eyes as like a rude host. This is historical. Oh man! Before I let you go, also the art on this, art on the poster by Alex Wright. So Numbers Family, shout that out. But yeah, Kids Outside Festival 2, Saturday, August 26th, 2 to 4 p.m. at George Park. Thank you all for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you.
Hope to see you all there.
All right.